Right now, we don't control our sovereignty, and right now we don't control our destiny.
With petrol and diesel prices skyrocketing and supply shortages leaving some service stations completely dry, Queensland's Premier is pushing for a dramatic shift in how Australia sources its fuel. David Crisafulli is calling on the federal government to accelerate expansion plans for oil production in southern Queensland, arguing the nation needs to reduce its reliance on imports from Asian neighbours.
I do want Australians to see this not as a knee-jerk reaction, quite on the contrary. This is a once-in-a-half-a-century opportunity for us to control our own sovereign destiny again. And I want to see a time in this nation when we return to drilling and refining and storing our own fuel. And the fact that we don't has left us at the mercy of the end of a global supply chain. And I'm determined to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future. And we do have our own opportunity here to be able to do something really, really special.
Australia's current fuel situation is particularly complex. The country produces very little oil domestically, and the light crude oil we do extract is shipped overseas to be blended with heavy oil during the refining process. That refined fuel is then imported back into Australia, creating a cycle of dependency that leaves us vulnerable to global supply disruptions. The Premier made the journey to the Taroom Trough, located in the Bowen Basin around 350 kilometres northwest of Brisbane. Currently, this site produces just 200 barrels of oil daily, which is then processed into diesel. But Crisafulli believes there's far more potential beneath the surface, describing it as untapped liquid gold.
Well, it's our golden opportunity to tap into liquid gold, and this is something that we embarked on before this crisis. We called for tenders in May of last year, and we announced those before all this began.
His proposal centres on utilising federal powers under the National Interest Fast-Track Assessment pathway. This mechanism can expedite approvals for major infrastructure deemed critical to the nation, though it wasn't originally intended for fossil fuel projects. Queensland authorities contend that given the current crisis, now is the time to make an exception if Australia wants to shield itself from future oil supply shocks.
Internationally, the situation remains with the update that I provided on Saturday with 39 days worth of petrol, and Australians would have noticed that that figure has remained pretty static. 39 days, that's up a bit on when this international crisis started, 30 days roughly for diesel and jet fuel, which is pretty static. Australians can be reassured. I think that means that petrol and diesel is going out the door at a rapid rate, but also coming in the door.
The Federal Energy Minister has indicated a willingness to collaborate, but hasn't given full backing to rushing through outback oil field expansions.
If there's a proposal, we're more than happy to work it through. It's got to stack up economically, obviously. It'll need to go through the environmental approvals process. Minister Watt is more than happy to receive a request from the Queensland Government. There are things that can be done with the Queensland Government and the Commonwealth Government working together on a bilateral agreement to fast-track approvals.
However, not everyone supports ramping up fossil fuel production. Climate advocates are urging the government to prioritise renewable energy infrastructure instead.
Accelerating environmental approvals for projects like this would be a disaster for our local environment and our climate.
Energy experts have also raised concerns about the economic viability. Analysis from the Grattan Institute suggests a refinery could cost anywhere from $5 billion to $15 billion, with serious doubts about whether Australia's reserves would justify such an investment. As the fuel crisis intensifies, the debate over Australia's energy future continues to divide opinion.
And for some bizarre reason, we went through a period in this nation where we used to celebrate. We used to celebrate refineries coming down as though somehow we wore that as a badge of honour. That is madness. That is handing your destiny to others. We are at the end of a global supply chain. Why on earth would we reduce our sovereign capabilities in this country?
Sure.